Welcome to Mind, America's Lignite Energy Podcast, brought to you by the Lignite Energy Council of North Dakota. Here's your hosts, Kate Muggerud and Jeff Simon.
Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode here of Mind, Lignite Energy in America. I am extremely honored and proud to have somebody very special to the state of North Dakota who's done a lot for this industry. Senator John Hoeven is joining us today on the podcast. Jeff and I know Jeff probably has, a bunch of questions ready to go for the senator. And just from personal here, Senator, welcome. Thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it so much.
Kate, really good to be with you and with Jeff. Appreciate all you do out there helping build our, not only support our energy industry in the state, but build our energy future. So great to be with both of you, and thanks for inviting me.
Fantastic.
Senator, can we let's kick off the podcast with a question about a statement or maybe a letter of demand almost that you issued this week. You and several colleagues signed a letter to FERC Chairman James Danley regarding their resiliency docket, which has been around for, I think, going on 3 years now.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it's a vitally important issue for the lignite industry. Given the fact that we've got a lot of these coal plants out here are only running half the time now, but they're providing the important backup supply, yet struggling financially. What's the issue here? What can FERC do to help out and ensure the viability of these plants by providing some compensation for resiliency?
Well, right on. We want to know that power is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And look at what's going on out in California, where they've got those rolling brownouts and blackouts. And, think about North Dakota, our weather here. We have some extremely cold days and, some peak days for power demand. And we need to know that base load is there and always available. And so now FERC's had the record open for, as you said, Jeff, correctly, for almost 3 years. And they need to make sure that that reliability and resiliency, as well as integrity of the grid, is maintained. And that's what this is all about, is getting them, off the dime to help us do that. And I've been meeting not only with FERC, but with MISO, as well as talking to our leadership here in the state of North Dakota about things that we need to do so that baseload is fairly valued.
And we've heard talk about, kind of a renewable energy standard. Maybe we need a reliability standard as well in this country.
Well, and that's right. And that's why I mentioned all three. That's why I mentioned FERC. That's why I mentioned MISO or SPP, because, those are the regional operators that we deal with out here. That's why I mentioned the problems that they're having in California. And there's also a role for the state to play in this. And so I'm also talking to John Hoeven at the Transmission Authority, as well as PSC members and legislators, because there's a role for the state here too. I was recently in Minneapolis. I talked to the top people at MISO, and they recognize the need for grid integrity, as well as that reliability, resiliency, that 24-hour days, 7 days a week, base load. I think there's a role for all three to play, meaning at the FERC level, at the RTO level, and at the state level, to say, okay, we need to know that 24-hour, 7-day-a-week availability is there, and that we need to have rules of the road in place to make sure that it is fairly valued and compensated for the good of our state and the good of our people. And so I'm also looking at that as something that I'm not only working with MISO, FERC, SPP, and others on, but the state of North Dakota.
Excellent. Well, Kate, I'm going to kick it over to you to talk about, I think, a topic uppermost on the minds of many North Dakotans in coal country, and that's the future of Coal Creek Station. Kate, what would you like to ask about that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So for some of our new listeners too here, I just kind of want to reintroduce kind of the purpose of our podcast and why it's so wonderful to have Senator Hoeven with us. You know, we started this podcast, we're on season 2 here, and we're looking at kind of a intro or an outsider's perspective on really what the energy industry specifically, what it's all about, and we dive into these topics. So Senator Hoeven, for those who are joining us that are not familiar from North Dakota, Senator Hoeven, and I know this as a North Dakota girl, served as our governor, and we had some of the best years, in my opinion, in the state of North Dakota. And it was so great to see him progress on to his position now. And so, Senator, can you talk a little bit about so GRE's plans to sell or close the Coal Creek station? That's been on the minds of a lot of people. So there's concerns about jobs, kind of where we have a future for both the plant and the Falkirk mine. Can you kind of talk to me a little bit about what that means for the state of North Dakota?
Well, it's incredibly important, and that's why I'm working with many others to make sure we do all we can to keep that plant and the mine in operation. Coal Creek's 1,100 megawatt plant. It is one of the most modern plants in the country with the latest, greatest technology, and the same with the mine. So it's not only about having that baseload energy available on a low cost, dependable basis, but it's also a case where you've got a plant with the best environmental stewardship. And you're talking employment at the plant north of 250 people, probably 400 or more at the mine. So you're maybe talking 650, 700 people in really good jobs, but also an operation in terms of coal-fired electricity that really affords us the opportunity to continue to push forward with things. They've done things like coal beneficiation. They've worked on things like using fly ash for highway and other construction materials. So they've got a lot of firsts, and we're working now with them on carbon capture. That can be another one. But we need to find ways to work with our energy providers in the state and keep the plant and the mine in operation.
Absolutely. And I would assume, and from our understanding, you're working with multiple parties on doing this. This is not an easy task to take on.
Well, no, that's right on. Really, we need to get everybody involved. So I work not only here in the state of North Dakota with our legislators, with our regulators, and of course with the industry, with the lignite energy industry, but also in DC with the FERC. And then I've gone to Minneapolis to talk to the leadership of some of the companies that do business here, whether it's Great River Energy or Xcel or you name it, all of them, as well as the coal companies. And it's very important. And I think where we are right now is we've pulled everybody together. So now we're working together rather than having competing approaches. And that's very important, because for a while there were kind of different interests looking at this and potentially competing proposals. And the good thing now is that we've got people working together, and we're working to see if we can't get something where we keep the plant operating, we keep the mine operating, and then we're all kind of working together and really turning this into something where we can add things like the carbon capture piece. You've seen that's already started with Blue Flint ethanol, which is powered by steam from the plant, and we need to continue to build that. And we have a unique opportunity here, Kate, in that back in 2008, when I was governor, we set up this task force to figure out how to handle carbon capture and sequestration and the pore space. We turned that into legislation, which was passed in 2009. And now, working as a senator, I've been able to get EPA to bless our system. So North Dakota is the first state in the nation, and now there's one other, Texas has come online too, but we were the first and one of only 2 states in the country where we're ready to actually do that carbon capture. So we're in a position again to lead the industry with this project.
Yeah, I think that's been absolutely, one of the most amazing things that I've learned along my journey here with diving into the energy industry, specifically in North Dakota, is really realizing, and I didn't know this, how much of a leader the state of North Dakota is within energy, and what we're doing that other states and even countries are looking to us to see our technology, what we're developing. And that has been something that's made me so proud to be North Dakotan, just, wow, I had no idea.
Totally. I mean, that's right on. In other words, we're in a position where we've brought all these elements together, and it hasn't happened overnight. We've done it over the last decade plus to put ourselves in position to actually do the carbon capture. And now we're doing things like adding on things like the 45Q, which we should talk about, because it's about making it economically viable.
That was going to be the next question on my list. There was about 45Q, and I mean, 45Q provides potentially $50 per ton of carbon dioxide captured and stored, and $35 if it's used, 35 per ton if it's used in the oil industry.
Exactly.
We think about this; these coal plants generate through their combustion process 1 million or more tons each, and multiply that times $50, and CCUS becomes a very viable enterprise. But my question is now, with a potential Joe Biden presidency and maybe a resumption of the war on coal, what's the future for 45Q?
Well, I hope it's good, because if we're going to do carbon capture, you have to bring all these things together in order to do it. It's not enough to have the technological viability, which we do have, and we've talked about a little bit. You also have to have the commercial viability. And that's why we work so hard to pass 45Q. Jeff described it just right. It's $50 a ton for carbon capture and sequestration. It's $35 a ton if you use it for tertiary oil recovery. We now have the sign off from EPA to do both. And the key is that by using that tax credit, then that helps defray the cost of putting in the equipment to capture all that CO2, separate it so you can put it down whole. So in our state, you've got, for example, Basin Electric with Dakota Gasification. They already, because they do coal gasification, they already separate the CO2 stream. About half of that right now is being used for tertiary oil recovery in the Weyburn, Canada oil fields. The other half is available for geologic storage. So they don't have to put all that cost on the plant to separate. They already do it. They just have to put in the piping and the compressors to go ahead and start sequestering the other 50% of their CO2 stream. So I think they're in a great position. You're going to see them move forward with a remarkable CCUS project that's going to get, I think, worldwide attention, and it really helps their economics. Now, flip over to Coal Creek. They have to make that investment to put the equipment in place, just like Minn Kota's doing with their Young plant, okay? So this $50 a ton, because they're not going to do tertiary oil recovery, that $50 a ton tax credit, as Jeff said, makes a huge difference in the economics of the plant. That's so important, because now you have both the technological viability, which we talked about, and the commercial viability. And if we show it can be done, because we've got to put all these things in place, other places around the country and the world will follow. That's a real solution to carbon capture. And so when you talk about this new administration, Jeff, they should go all out helping us, because if they're serious about actually addressing the CO2, remember, it's not just plants in this country that have CO2, it's around the globe. And if we lead the way here, that's how you really address it, rather than just talk about it.
Senator, I was going to ask you about that, with 45Q, and, I mean, it really does provide a marvelous opportunity to extend the life of the coal industry, because, face it, there's a lot of angst in the world about carbon and what it's doing to the climate. But are your peers willing to embrace truly clean coal here? I mean, carbon-free coal. Or, that's still a kind of a challenge to educate everyone about that possibility, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's why myself and others that are advocates for dependable, low-cost coal-fired electricity with all these features that we're talking about, we have to work with others that advocate for other types of energy as well, to say, okay, look, we still need that all of the above, and to have all of the above and have the environmental stewardship where we're doing all these things, you've got to work with us on things like 45Q. We'll have other issues that we have to work with them on, transmission and so on and so forth, and you name it, other types of infrastructure. But it just seems to me like this is a win-win. if we can convince people that, look, we all talk about an all of the above approach. We all talk about carbon capture. Now help us do it. And that involves all the things we've talked about. Plus, I'm also working with DOE on loan guarantees, which could be very important in terms of putting this equipment in place, as well as things like Project Tundra, which is an incredible partnership that people should be not only supporting, but celebrating, where you've got the industry, the lignite energy industry, you've got the state of North Dakota, and you've got the federal government through the Department of Energy joining to help put that equipment, that carbon capture equipment, in place on these coal-fired electric plants. And again, show that this can be done. And you know, it's back to that statement. Are we back to the point, are we just going to talk about this, or are we going to actually do it? And we're in position to do it. And so I hope we can get that help, Jeff, so that we can continue forward, because I think this truly is that win-win situation.
Well, bottom line, the viability of coal kind of goes back to the first topic we addressed, and that's resiliency, reliability. You can put up all the renewable generation you want, but you're still going to need that backup power supply, because the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine.
Exactly.
100%. And that's why MISO, and so that's why we want FERC to finish that record and come forward with something that's helpful. They need to help us not only that, but on transmission issues. And then MISO, SPP, and the others, they need to work with us and look at exactly what you said, Jeff. How do you make sure that that 24-hour availability is truly there, so we don't have the kind of issues you're seeing out on the West Coast? And we're going to see more of those problems if we don't address that issue. MISO's working on it. It takes some time to move them, which is why I say, as a state, I believe we also have to look at it in this upcoming session. And I think, again, with fair treatment and valuation, we can help do exactly what we're talking about. In other words, it takes all of these different elements to really move the needle. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about moving the needle for this industry in a big, very positive way. Again, a leadership role that I think is so important. And, you know, I think, to me, it's exciting, and it goes to that whole concept of North Dakota being an energy powerhouse, where we truly do have that all of the above approach.
Absolutely. So, you know, given on, you know, talking about the power outages that California experienced and that we saw out on the West Coast there, do you think that there now is an appetite really for a federal reliability energy standard, given what happened?
Well, I hope there is. And again, both at the federal level and the state level, I think we have to work on that piece of it and value that reliability, just like we're talking about. Because you know how it goes. People walk in the room and they expect the light to come on when they hit the switch. And on the coldest day, they expect that furnace to be running. And on the hottest day, they expect to have, you know, their air conditioning. And think about it, for our country, we are competitive in a global economy when we have low cost, reliable, dependable energy. And that makes us, it's a foundational sector of our economy. It makes all of our other sectors stronger in the global competition. And we don't want to be like some of these third world countries where, you know, they have the rolling brownouts and blackouts. That is not what people want. And so we have to communicate this. So that's why I'm glad that the two of you are bringing this up. I think the public needs to understand that if we want that reliability, then we've got to have that base load there to make sure that it's provided.
I think that you know, that's excellently put, but I think we need to also remind people that given what 2020 has brought us, just from you know, everything that's happened within our country, specifically, people are now needing energy and that reliability more than ever for their work life, for their home life. I mean, you talk about how, you know, with the shutdowns and how businesses had to go through that for a while, everything was powered. And to not have that reliability in our homes, for our work, our families, people need to tie those two together, because it is critically important, especially with where we're at right now.
No, that's exactly right. And that's why, again, it takes a real partnering effort, and those are the things we've talked about here. And again, a big part of it is just what the two of you are doing, And that is, getting the word out. So we're telling people why this is important and building support for exactly what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So kind of, besides the electricity and fertilizers with the lignite, researchers are kind of looking now at emerging markets specifically with North Dakota lignite, including rare earth elements. We've had a couple different people on the show talking about that. So how do you feel the federal government can really play a role in that technology to kind of develop those opportunities with our lignite resources?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kate. I mean, we have the opportunity not only to use our lignite coal as an energy source, do the decarbonization like we've talked about and all that, but also the rare earth minerals, which right now, for the most part, we get from China. And I think people are fed up and tired of being dependent on China for anything with all the, with COVID and everything else. And so we really need to find ways to get those rare earth minerals here that are so critical in so many of our industries, whether it's energy or our defense industry or, you name it, technology across the board. We need those rare earth minerals. And again, North Dakota, in this case, through UND's EERC, the Energy and Environmental Research Center, which frankly is an absolute leader in energy technology. But the EERC has a contract which we've worked to help them get with the DOE, where we provided funding. I think in the case of UND, it's about $6.5 million to develop a pilot plant to extract rare earth minerals from lignite coal. So that's going exactly in the direction you just described, where we're trying to figure out how we get and produce these rare earth minerals here at home, rather than places like China. And there's also a DOE has a competitive funding round coming up, more than $100 million, which provides an opportunity on a regional basis for innovation centers, in essence, to develop this technology and extract these rare earth minerals. And again, the EERC is leading along with our lignite energy industry, LEC, Lignite Energy Council, in terms of putting together a proposal to do just that. So again, we want to be there and part of leading that effort, and I believe we will be.
Yeah. That's such good points. I'm just soaking all that in. So kind of, I want to jump, what do you feel like, talking on a broader scale, what are your priorities specifically to help ensure that coal continues to have a very active role in our nation's electrical grid?
Yeah, well, we've really kind of gone through all of those things that go into making sure that happens. And I think that, it's so important here in North Dakota, not just to keep plants like Coal Creek going and the mine and our other plants, but to actually transition them to this future wherein we continue to have this low cost, dependable electricity, energy for our country, but that we lead the way forward in some of these new technologies that give us the best environmental stewardship, and recognize that we have an opportunity to do that. So I think at the state level, we, as I said, very important role to play. We need to continue to do all we can. And then, as you and Jeff have rightly pointed out, we have to continue to work not only directly with DOE and FERC and others, as well as on a regional basis with MISO and so forth, to get that help and support to make this happen. But the communication like we're doing today to say, reach out to other people who, may not be supportive of, coal-fired electricity or other fossil fuels as we believe they should be, and continue to make our case, because I think it is a very good case that not only is this important for the country in terms of energy security and national security, but we're really leading the way forward on these good environmental stewardship issues too.
When you add it all up, Senator, you think about everything that coal delivers in terms of electric generation first and foremost, but also the potential uses for its byproducts. We've seen fly ash used as a substitute for concrete. We have rare earth minerals out there, and down the road here, potentially we've got the future use of carbon dioxide to enhance our oil supply, which we're going to need for decades and decades to come. You really kind of have to wonder, how can there possibly be a war on coal?
Well, that's it. And particularly when I feel like we're being so responsive, whether it's SOx, NOx, mercury, you name it, we've gone through and we've addressed those issues and we continue to do it. Now we're addressing the CO2. I mean, when you look at the innovation and creativity of our coal-fired electric industry combined with like the EERC and the Lignite Energy Council, I mean, it really is phenomenal in terms of how responsive they've been and how proactive they've been in dealing with all these issues as they've come up, and how they continue to do it.
Yeah. So, Senator, looking to 2021, and, we kind of touched if under a Biden administration, what will be your specific, focuses that you want to look at for 2021 to continue advancing this industry?
So really that help and support that we've talked about from Department of Energy, help and support with 45Q, help and support with the RTOs like MISO, that's critically important. And working with my Senate colleagues, I think, I'm on the Energy Committee. Senator Barrasso, I think, will be our new chairman this next go around. He's phenomenal. But to continue to get that support, like I talked about, I believe loan guarantee, we've provided the funding. That loan guarantee program is in place at DOE for these carbon capture projects. I want to make sure that's available for our utilities, our energy companies here. Getting them to help us with those things is critically important, and doggone it, they should, because they have talked about carbon capture. We're doing it, and they should be there helping us do it, because they've said they would be, and we need to hold them to it and get that help and assistance, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
Absolutely. Completely agree. It's the technology that we have, even recently developed and that we're working on is something to be proud of, and that it's something should be celebrated, specifically during the times that we're in right now. And so I our hope is that, through kind of what you shared in this podcast, that people are really coming to understand that, and and not really look at some of, the things that can be thrown in, different perspectives of media, but really focus on the facts. And what the facts are is this is great for our country. This is great for our state. And we hope to see a lot more of that in 2021.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to see help and support for all these things, whether it's 45Q, whether it's things like Project Tundra, whether it's loan guarantees, whatever it is. All those programs, they need to be proactive in helping us utilize those, along with all the things the industry is doing and the things the state can do to help us move forward. This is really important for our country, and certainly for our state, but for our country too.
Well, Senator, on behalf of the counties in coal country, Mercer and Oliver and McLean counties, and the constituencies that I represent there, the cities, counties, and school districts, definitely want to thank you and applaud you for your efforts to support coal.
Thanks, Jeff. We really appreciate them and all they're doing, and appreciate you and Kate getting the word out. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure visiting with you, and we just wish you all the best here in this upcoming year.
You too, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Mind, America's Lignite Energy Podcast. For more information on lignite energy in North Dakota, visit lignite.com.